Elton Reservoir is situated between the Lancashire towns of Radcliffe and Bury, and was a pleasant place for people to relax and walk and enjoy the view. It isn't some great lake like Windermere, but a pleasant enough place for working people to enjoy as part of their leisure time. The reservoir was built to supply water for the local canal, with a long embankment along its eastern side, starting near Radcliffe Hall. Every Sunday in the summer, couples would parade up and down the embankment as they'd done freely since it was built in the early 19th century. It was also an important thoroughfare for men going to their work in the early morning. Just below the embankment was a farm track to Radcliffe Hall, and this was the place that was to become, for a brief moment, the focus of national attention. Just below the embankment was the feeder that took the water from the reservoir to the nearby canal. This area, affectionately known as Dolly Brook, was extremely popular amongst local people, with children paddling in the brook in the summer. The adults sat on the grass with their picnics, listening to the local brass band, whilst the men enjoyed a pint in the nearby Farmers' Arms public house. This idyllic scene was, however, about to change. In 1904, the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway Company, who by then owned the reservoir and the canal, erected barriers made of railway sleepers and fenced off neighbouring areas. Local people promptly dismantled the barriers, and the railway company promptly reinstated them. Acting on legal advice, the protesters decided to test the mettle of the railway company by formally advising the police and the railway company that if the obstruction was raised again, it would be removed at a given time. The names and addresses of those intending to remove the posts was also given. An immense crowd of people gathered on the fateful day, and the obstruction was removed by the 8 people named on the legal document. The 8 men were summoned to appear at Radcliffe Police Court on July the 11th, 1904. They were John Davenport, William Senior, Amos Jackson, James Thompson Yates, John Lord, Abraham Whittle, and James William Handley. There followed a most incredible sequence of legal judgments before the case was finally heard by the Lord Chancellor in 1906. After 2 postponements, the judgment was delivered, dismissing the appeal with costs. This was a tremendous victory for the people of Radcliffe. They'd established that rights of way cannot simply be blocked or obstructed as the landowner thinks fit, that a right of passage can exist whether it's on a public right of way or even a river, a judgment that is still true to this day and benefits everyone who walks in the countryside. Because the case had gone to the High Court, it was realised that considerable cost might be involved if they lost. Money for the defence was collected in Radcliffe and surrounding areas from local businesses and others. After fees had been paid for the witnesses' expenses, a small sum was left over, and special commemorative gold medals were struck for the 8 defendants as mementos. The medals were presented at a public dinner held at the Ram's Head in Radcliffe in 1906, in the hope that they would be a constant reminder to future generations of the important stand those Radcliffe men had made. Today, people can walk unhindered on the reservoir embankment. Until as late as the 1980s, one of the barrier sleepers still stood upright near the embankment, but that too has now gone. But society has changed too. The fine old Farmers' Arms public house is no more. People no longer picnic at Dolly Brook, although the reservoir still has its yachts and boats. The whole area is unkempt and decrepit. So, what did the good people of Radcliffe actually achieve? Actually, quite a lot. They set a legal precedent for all rights of way, a precedent that's enjoyed by all ramblers and walkers even to this day. And finally, just a thought for those gallant men of Radcliffe. Perhaps in this age of climate change, concern for the environment and equal rights, it wouldn't be too much to ask for a small plaque or an interpretation panel to be fixed somewhere on the embankment wall, telling the story of the great Trespass case.